Amid a roadblock on much-awaited solution to the impending Naga political issue, a delegation of 9 NSC and IM leaders, at the invitation of Government of India appointed interlocutor to peace talks A.K. Mishra, reaches New Delhi. Notably, the delegation left for Delhi without Chief Negotiator and NSC and IM General Secretary T.H. Muiva. NPF, during an emergency Central Executive Council meeting held at its headquarters, resolved to reaffirm its commitment to work for Naga political solution. Party also urges Government of India to bring an honourable, acceptable and inclusive solution. Consequent upon the government's failure to work for the people, the 58 Assembly Constituency student leaders undertakes to start movement for clean election. Student leaders informs all political parties to abide by resolutions and want individuals affiliated to politicians not to manipulate the students' leaders. Lota Middle Range Students' Union expresses resentment over undergoing road construction of Sanis to Lakhuti Road after the inspection of the road on Tuesday. Union, while inspecting road, observed that the work was stagnant and not progressing. Union wants to resort to democratic protests. Sri Lankan court bans former Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa and politician son Namal Rajapaksa and 15 allies from leaving country over acts of violence against anti-government demonstrators in Colombo this week. Hello viewers, I'm Rinki Gogoi and you're watching Nagaland TV Primetime News. Let's see more of the news in details. A delegation comprising the NSC and IM leaders reached New Delhi to discuss and end the stalemate over the Naga political issue. The delegation arrived at the national capital after being invited by interlocutor to the Naga peace talks A.K. Mishra in an attempt to bring the impending issue back on track. It has been learned that the delegation comprising V.S. Atem, R.H. Rai Singh, T.T. Among, Puni Mao, Kraibo Chawang, Vikayi Sumi, Vitsolhu Pesye, W. Zimik and Meyitsuba Ao held a meeting with Mishra, and another round of meeting will also take place on Friday. According to sources, NSC and IM President Kwezu Tuku and General Secretary Twingali Muiva would likely head to Delhi following outcome of these meetings. Notably, the 9-man delegation left for Delhi from Dimapur on Wednesday without Chief Negotiator Muiva. It is believed that during these recent talks, A.K. Mishra, who visited Nagaland last month, is expected to relay message to the NSC and IM leaders that all the stakeholders, including the Naga public, is eager for a solution without any delay. The Lota Range Students' Union on Thursday, to a press release, expressed resentment over the undergoing road construction of Sanis to Lakhuti Road after inspecting the road on Tuesday. Notably, the union, while inspecting the road, observed that the work was stagnant and not progressing. The union stated that the concerned contractors assured the LMRSU officials on 24 March 2022 that the blacktopping will start within 15 days and probably completed within 45 working days using foreign technology. However, it was learned that no progress has been seen since the date of the assurance. The union further requested the esteemed authority to earnestly prioritize the matter and expedite the work within the end of the month. While they also mentioned that failing to do so, the LMRSU will resort to any form of democratic protest and will not remain mute spectator anymore. Consequent upon the government's failure to work for the people, the 58 Assembly Constituency students leaders have undertaken to start movement for clean election. Starting from 30th of April 2023, the student leaders had informed all the political parties to abide by the resolutions they have adopted. They further warned the individuals affiliated to politicians not to manipulate the student leaders, and thus the concerned candidates shall be responsible for such activities. The student bodies also stated that the call for clean election was not against any political parties or leaders or against the interest of any non-governmental organizations, but to fight against corruptions rooted in the political system. Furthermore, the Rising People's Party acknowledged the great effort by the student bodies of the 58th Assembly constituency and also appealed to all the youths and the student bodies to follow the suit. Hooker Village Students Union President Sangtu Yimkyung also said that they had to bring up the movement because they are not okay with the system in the state and took this decision independently because many failed in the past and left with no option to whom to trust.
30th of April 2022, the students' unions of all the villages under 58 Assembly constituency had a coordination meeting and decided to have clean election campaign for 2023 Nagaland Legislative Assembly election. We took this decision because we are not okay with the system. Today, Nagaland is so corrupt and only leaders can fight corruptions, not politicians. We also took this decision independently because many failed in the bus and we don't know who or which organization to trust. The failures in the bus had become a laughingstock to many, and critics would say it's impossible because no one in the bus did succeed. But we tell you this time it's us. We can and we will. For us, failures in the bus is a challenge. It's because of it we'll be honored to receive the DAG, first people to win it. I request all the right-thinking citizens to support us and be the people behind the scene when we succeed.
Now, the renewal of Dimapur Municipal Council Registration Certificate license for 2022 has been extended till May 31st, upon which DMC Administrator Albert Izang directed all hand cart, sugarcane juicer, chaat, fast food, ice cream trolley, bicycle and cycle rickshaw driving license holders to renew their certificate license within the stipulated period without fail. The Nagaland Bar Association has requested the Union Minister of Law and Justice Kiren Rijiju to help in setting up a separate High Court for Nagaland, saying that the state deserves it after 60 years of statehood. In a representative to the Union Minister, the association stated that Manipur, Tripura and Meghalaya states have been granted separate High Courts while Nagaland is still under Guwahati High Court. The association has assured to give their full support and cooperation and in a separate representation urged the Chief Minister and the state government to press for a setting up of a separate High Court without further delay. The Siminu District Planning and Development Board meeting is scheduled to be held on 18 May 2022. Notably, the meeting will be held at 11 a.m. in the official chamber of the Deputy Commissioner of Siminu. It is to be mentioned that all the DPDB members have been requested to make it convenient and attend the meeting positively. The ongoing AstroTurf football field construction at Tuensang under the state planning is nearing completion and expected to be completed by this month. The installation of synthetic turf is set to be completed by the end of this month, and football enthusiasts will be able to experience and easily adapt to football fields of national and international level. The AstroTurf project began in October 2021 after being sanctioned in the same year. After 7 years of construction, the Doyang Bridge is finally on the verge of completion. As per sources, the Doyang Bridge near Governor's Camp in Lipnanyan village of Woka district is said to be ready for use during emergencies, as all the major construction works like laying of final fort slabs and decks have been completed. It has also been seen that Chief Minister Nltv Rio is eagerly waiting for the completion of the project. The two-lane RCC bridge is expected to be inaugurated as all works complete. The Doyang bridge project was taken up under Nagaland Expressway and the contract was allotted to Pukato Shoye and Sons, and the works under it was issued in the year 2014. This bridge, once completed, will benefit many districts of the state including Dimapur, Woka, Mokokchung, Longlang and Mon. The Woka District Cricket Association is all set to conduct the senior cricket team trials starting from May 13 to 14. The trials are to be conducted in view of the forthcoming senior inter-district cricket tournament at Sovima. Trials will be conducted at the local ground Woka, and the association has invited interested senior cricket players above 19 years of Woka district to take part in the trials. The All Nagaland School Teachers Association has warned the government that the association may be forced to resort to democratic means to attain justice if pending salaries are not released. The association stated that their salaries have been pending for more than 2 months now. The teachers further mentioned that non-payment of salary for more than 2 months is also an absolute infringement upon the employees' fundamental rights guaranteed in the Constitution of India. The association wrote a letter addressing the Nagaland Chief Secretary J. Alam requesting his intervention on the issue. The association also stressed on the immense hardships faced by the teachers due to the non-release of salary, since salary is the only source of income. Associations lastly urged the government to release all the pending salaries and warned the government that failing to do so would force the association to undertake democratic means of agitation. The Confederation of Chang Students' Union has asked the government of Nagaland to punish those responsible for sending the Chennai returnees to Tuensang district on May 26, 2020. Notably, the CSSU had filed a public interest litigation on June 3, 2020 over the returnees from Chennai being made to leave Kohima quarantine center for Tuensang before results of their COVID-19 tests were out. Following which, the union on Wednesday approached the High Court to address the grievances of the returnees, improving medical facilities and conduct a detailed inquiry into the incident under the Disaster Management Act 2005. Therefore, it asked the authorities to punish those involved in the sending of the 169 returnees to Tuensang based on the findings of the Judicial Inquiry Committee and the judgment of the High Court. As the world celebrates International Nurses Day on Thursday, Chief Minister Nltv Rio and MP S. Pangnon extended their greetings on the occasion. CM Rio, taking down to Twitter, mentioned that on International Nurses Day, people acknowledge the contributions of nurses around the world, and further stated that they are the backbone of the healthcare system and that people are grateful to them for their altruistic service. Meanwhile, MP S. Pangnon tweeted saying that the significance of nurses as the lifeline of the healthcare systems has been especially reinforced during the last 2 years when COVID raged across the globe. She also extended her gratitude and salute to the nurses for their service and sacrifice to humanity. Nagaland Governor Professor Jagdish Mukhi on Wednesday directed the contractors and officials engaged in the construction of the Regional Convention Center at the Northeast Zone Cultural Center complex in Dimapur to complete the construction at the stipulated time. Chairman of NEZCC, Mukhi, visited the RCC construction site and assured his support for the completion of the construction of the center. Notably, the construction work of the RCC started in September 2016 during the tenureship of former Governor P.B. Acharya. Notably, the foundation of the center was laid to facilitate and honor personalities and achievers from the 8 northeastern states. On the occasion of International Nurses Day, the Dimapur unit of Trained Nurses Association of India on Thursday celebrated the day at the Medical Fellowship Hall in District Hospital, Dimapur. Notably, the celebration was held under the theme A Voice to Lead, Invest in Nursing and Respect Rights to Secure the Global Health, whereby all the district hospital doctors and invitees attended the program. It is to be mentioned that about 200 to 300 nurses are currently working under the district hospital. Meanwhile, during the program, all the nurses were also felicitated. Hidayat Ali, who hails from Assam, now settled in the US, scaled Mount Everest early on Thursday morning. Notably, Ali, a software engineer by profession, reached the top at around 7:30 a.m. and is the 7th Assamese mountaineer to climb the Mount Everest. It is to be mentioned that Ali climbed the peak with an international team with 11 other mountaineers earlier. He also climbed Mount Elbrus, the highest peak in Europe, Mount Aconcagua in 2019 and Mount Kilimanjaro, the highest peak in Africa in the year 2018. Prime Minister Narendra Modi virtually attended the Utkarsh Samoroh in Gujarat's Bharuch on Thursday. Notably, the program was organized to mark the celebrations of 100% saturation of the 4 key schemes of the state government in the district. It is to be mentioned that Utkarsh Samoroh is a celebratory event to mark the culmination of the Utkarsh Initiative Drive conducted by the Bharuch District Administration from January 1, 2022 to March 31, 2022. It is also to be mentioned that the drive ensured the provision of the schemes providing financial assistance to the widows, elderly and the destitute citizens. The 4 schemes are namely Ganga Swarupa Arthik Sahay Yojana, Indira Gandhi Virudh Sahay Yojana, Niradhar Virudh Arthik Sahay Yojana and Rashtriya Kutumb Sahay Yojana. To mark the 8th anniversary of Modi government, BJP is set to launch a massive fortnight-long campaign on May 30. Notably, the campaign is said to reach out all the sections of the society, particularly on minorities, scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. Meanwhile, elected representatives of the party, MPs and MLAs will actively participate in their public outreach programs. It may be mentioned that BJP President JP Naga will kick off the campaign and a book titled A Report to the Nation is also set to be released. Now we have a report on the weather report, and then the Nagaland have IMD has reported that Nagaland will receive heavy rainfall in the onset of monsoon and prevailing weather conditions in the Nagaland state. Heavy rainfall accompanied with lightning expected to receive in the coming days, while pre-monsoon activities is also expected to pick up during this period. Notably, the Nagaland State Disaster Management Authority Home Department, through a notification, informed that the lowland and the foothill areas of Nagaland, such as Dimapur, Newland, Chumukidima, Bhandari, Pangti, Tizit and Tuli, are likely to experience inundated waterlogging and flash flood because of the heavy participation in the hill sector. The NSDMA further mentioned that the people living in the areas to take necessary precautionary measures and exercise cautions from the lightning strikes and gale winds, which may cause disruption in communication and connectivity. Furthermore, through the release, NSDMA Home Department urged the public to be vigilant during the pre-monsoon period and not to shelter under large trees and near the riverbanks to prevent unnecessary risks to life from lightning and flash flood. Aam Aadmi Party convener Arvind Kejriwal, while addressing a rally in Rajkot city on Wednesday, promised a free pilgrimage for the senior citizens in AC trains if Aam Aadmi Party was voted to power in Gujarat. Kejriwal also promised free electricity, better schools and hospitals. Kejriwal further accused BJP of failing on education, health and employment fronts in Gujarat even after ruling for 27 long years. It is to be noted that the assembly polls in Gujarat are due by the year end.
Protest shows no sign of ending as Sri Lanka sees emergency, curfews and death during perhaps the most critical juncture in its history. Sri Lanka has been put on the edge after suffering months of economic crisis, political crisis, then the protests. The majority government elite, My Political Dynasty, is now seeing downfall. Real stakeholders are pushing them out of power and people protesting and prevailing more. Let's see more of this small island democracy, dictatorship and power corruption story. Today we show you the fall of Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka's most powerful political dynasty humbled by people's uprising. Mahinda Rajapaksa forced to resign as Prime Minister. At least 8 dead, 200 injured in clashes across the country. Anti-government protest prompt authorities to impose a nationwide curfew and deploy army troops in the capital. The current scenario in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka's embattled President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, under immense pressure from the public and the opposition to quit over the island nation's worst economic crisis, is refusing to step down, and the opposition has declined his offers of a unity government without constitutional change. Meanwhile, Gotabaya is expected to name a new Prime Minister on Thursday. Five-time former Premier Ranil Wickremesinghe is seen as a front-runner for the post that was formerly held by the president's brother Mahinda Rajapaksa, who quit on Monday amid violent protests in Colombo. Wickremesinghe, if named, will likely be at the head of a unity government with cross-party support in the 225-member Sri Lanka parliament. Why there is economic crisis in Sri Lanka? Creditors downgraded Sri Lanka's ratings, blocking it from borrowing more money as its foreign reserves nosedived. Soon after, the pandemic hit, flattening tourism again as debts mounted. The Ukraine war has driven up food and oil prices globally, making imports more unaffordable. What is Sri Lankan political crisis? The 2022 Sri Lankan political crisis is an ongoing political crisis in Sri Lanka due to the power struggle between President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and the Parliament of Sri Lanka. The crisis was fueled by the anti-government protests and demonstrations by the public due to the economic crisis in the country. How is Sri Lanka's economy? Sri Lanka's growth is slow and inflation is at multi-year highs. Consumer prices surged almost 30% in April from a year earlier, after a jump of almost 19% in March. The authorities have raised interest rates, devalued the local currency and placed curbs on non-essential imports. What led to Sri Lanka's economic crisis? Critics say the roots of the crisis, the worst in several decades, lie in economic mismanagement by successive governments that created and sustained a twin deficit, a budget shortfall alongside a current account deficit. Anger against Sri Lankan President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's handling of a deepening economic crisis in the island nation of 22 million people spiraled into violence late on Thursday, as hundreds of protesters clashed with police over several hours. The Rajapaksa clan in Sri Lanka politics. In South Asia, no other political dynasty has been as confidently nepotistic. During Mahinda Rajapaksa's second term as president from 2010 to 2015, there were said to be more than 40 Rajapaksa family members in government posts apart from the cabinet. The Rajapaksa family, whose members include Sri Lanka's Prime Minister and the President, hails from Hambantota district in the south. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and his brothers Chamal, Mahinda and Basil are third-generation politicians, while the fourth generation is represented by Mahinda and Chamal's sons Namal, Yosita and Sashindra. Sri Lanka has so far been bailed out by India, which has offered over $2.5 billion in basic goods and another $1 billion in fuel. The Lankan government has secured the promise of aid from the World Bank, but the violence this week means no substantial progress has been made in that promise becoming reality. The question that remains unsolved is, when will this crisis be over? Lanka is burning and starving, and apparently the Rajapaksas have sinked the island nation in the deep ocean of crisis. Bureau Report, Nagaland TV. Now that was about Sri Lanka crisis. We'll move on and see more about Russia. Russia has imposed sanctions on more than 30 EU, US and Singaporean energy companies in a retaliatory move following the penalties by the Western to the Russia over Ukraine on Wednesday. The Russian government has listed 31 companies mostly belonging to the Gazprom Germania group of subsidiaries of Russian energy giant Gazprom. The sanctions include a ban on transactions and entry into the Russian ports of vessels linked to the affected companies. Thank you, viewers. That's all from Primetime News. For more updates, keep watching Nagaland TV. Somanulagawas.
Hey, you haven't started yet?